Hi everyone, I'm Dale Smith, aka Journo Dale, and we're here to talk about Canadian politics. All right, it's time to take your questions, and we've only got the one this week on Twitter from Patricia Sutherland, who asks, the government has passed a number of truly significant bills, in her opinion, over the last number of years. Why is it criticized as a not get it done government? Couple of different reasons for that. First of all, a lot of their successes were really front loaded. These were things like legalizing marijuana, medical assistance in dying, which they kind of had a time clock imposed on them for that one. Some of the really big stuff, and it all happened really at the beginning, in part because that was when they had their majority. And they were able to get a lot of stuff done really early as a result of that. And it wasn't until the second parliament of Trudeau with the first minority, almost nothing got done in that one, in part because the procedural warfare in the House of Commons was so bad at that point that nothing was getting through. And then COVID happened, and then a lot of that was just pandemic measures, and that was really about it. Some of those were, yes, significant, but there was all this talk about we're going to build back better and we're going to do all these things differently, and pretty much none of that happened as a result. And then in the current parliament, they've largely been focused on a lot of priorities imposed on them by the NDP. Some of that has been their own in terms of like childcare, and that has been absolutely significant. But again, there's a lot of stuff that's been on their order paper, sometimes for years now. Certain bills have been sitting there literally two and a half, 3 years. Some of them have been carried over from previous couple of parliaments and still not passed. And part of that is, again, there's a lot of procedural warfare happening that is designed to slow things down. The Conservatives have been doing a lot of that. Thanks to the agreement with the NDP, they are able to break through some of that, in part also because the NDP kind of got a little bit of a lesson learned after the previous parliament, where they were also joining in with the procedural games, slowing things down until they realized that they had stuff that they wanted to get past too, and it couldn't happen. And so they've started to learn to play along a little better, so that some more stuff can get through, but a lot of stuff still is just kind of languishing there. There's a second reason for this as well, and that's kind of their own failings in terms of how their style of governance is happening. And this was really kind of highlighted in the recent book that Paul Wells put out called Justin Trudeau on the Ropes. And in there, he makes a really good observation about how governments kind of have two sort of modes in which they can operate. They can either get really managerial and work to get stuff done, or they can try and constantly recapture this notion of freshness and newness and excitement, and make lots of announcements one after another. And that's the kind of path that this government's chosen. Their whole thing with deliverology back in the first few years that they were governing, and they were, it was checklists of stuff they were getting done and so on. They just kind of started to abandon that, and focus more on the lots of announcements, trying to build excitement, but that is started to not work for them anymore either. So that's kind of the failing of their own, in terms of they're not really showcasing the work they're getting done and so on, because they're constantly trying to showcase something new, something shiny. Part of that is this kind of received wisdom that we keep hearing from the pollsters on all the chat shows, who say, it's all about what have you done for me lately, instead of a solid record of accomplishment. I think that's true to a small extent, but I also think it's a combination of these factors. And The government doesn't like to say we can't get stuff done because of the procedural warfare in the House of Commons. That makes it look like they're making excuses. They're not entirely. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that's happening in the current parliament that has not really happened in previous ones, in terms of the things that they're doing to, or that opposition parties are doing to slow legislation down. And just the way in which a lot of them are no longer actually working to get stuff done. It's all about the performance and what they're getting their clips for. So it's really hard to actually get work done when everyone is trying to outperform one another and get their clips for their socials. So I think that's part of also how that's coming in there as well, in terms of it's really hard to see how anything is getting done when it's just kind of circus. So yes, they have done some stuff. They have done some fairly significant stuff. But again, they're also just, there's other stuff that they have announced, made a big song and dance about, and then not really gone anywhere with either. Things like the Democracy Promotion Agency, and some of their investments and innovation stuff. Things like that as well. So some of that also starts to accumulate as well, in terms of perceptions that they're not getting a lot of stuff done. And so some stuff they are getting done, absolutely. But other stuff is not. I'm going to also add in there some of those promises also require them to get provincial cooperation, and that is increasingly difficult to get in the current environment, particularly the current crop of premiers, and that's also hampering some of what they are trying to do or what they have been hoping to do, because if you need the premiers to play along, they don't all want to do that, especially when they think they can score more points, looking like they're beating up on Justin Trudeau than they can if they're playing ball. So all of these things combined, you are right. They have accomplished some big things, but there's a lot of stuff they haven't accomplished, and it's starting to pile up as well. So those are all the kinds of things that are happening in the dynamic, and I think it's a little bit of everyone's fault in there. And that's everything for this week. I'm taking the next couple of weeks off, so join us again in August for some more Canadian politics. I'm Dale Smith, that's at Journo_Dale on Twitter, and JournoDale __ on Bluesky. And don't forget to like the video, share, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. Thanks, everyone.